It has been far too long since I've last spoken about the big blue hedgehog. Post Crossworld's release, I took a little step back from the series again, still chatting about it on occasion on Twitter, which in turn floods my timeline with the residents of Sonic Twitter, and then being quickly reminded on why I started staying far away from many of said residents. I'm simply not discourse-pilled enough to thrive in such an environment. I apologize. But for the series itself, even though it took a back seat for me to focus on other games and series that I've had in my backlog for way too long, Sonic will always be that guy to me, so I'll pretty much always return at some point. And it truly makes me happy to see where the series is at now compared to the same time a decade ago. Games are improving, stories are becoming more gripping, and the sauce is returning. Kinda. See, the gameplay and story's improvement is nigh indisputable. If you say you prefer the characterization and story of Lost World to what we have now, on everything you love, I am bombing your house, nigga! The gameplay is definitely a step up from where we were at the time, but it still has some issues most definitely. And the sauce is in a similar place, almost universally agreed to be better than before, but still missing something compared to the ancient times of the 90s and 2000s. To any man saying Adventure 2 sucks, you can eat my Adventure 2 nuts. Now the sauce is a very broad descriptor, because it can mean something different to different people. To some, it could be the music, while to others, it could be the visuals. So I'm going to break it down in the ways that I personally think the series may or may not currently be in sauce loss, because I can't speak for all of you people. I'm only one Sonic-loving Negro after all. And I'm gonna start with the music, cause this might be one of the most divisive sauce topics in debate right now. Yeah, we're tackling the big boy first. If there's one area that nearly everybody on the planet agrees on, even Sonic haters, it's that Sonic music pretty much always slaps, bro. There's a reason why I, and so many others, use so many Sonic songs as background music in our videos, even ones some of you might not have realized were Sonic songs. Like, do you know how shocked I was to find out that some of the music I've been hearing in people's videos from when I was a jit, and I could never figure out where they came from, were actually from Sonic Lost World and fucking Sonic 3D Blast? The Saturn version specifically, but Sonic 3D Blast, bro? They've got proper heat in these soundtracks, man. I gotta let you all listen to some ones, because you might not have never known that these came from these two games alone. These are the kind of tunes that make your balls jiggle, bro. I love Sonic beats. But you see, for I want to say about the past decade or so, there are some mans out there that have actually been quite dissatisfied with the output of Sonic's tunes. Sounds like blasphemy when you remember that just Sonic Mania alone dropped within the last decade, but let's entertain the thought for a bit here. I may not exactly subscribe to that idea, but you should subscribe to me still. Please, I'm begging you, my last video got 50 views, bro. I need the exposure, please. Quite a few fellas out there feel like the music just ain't the same as it used to be. Not necessarily speaking of its quality per se, but rather its genres. Plural. This is a complaint about the alleged homogenizing of Sonic's music to the dreaded genre of EDM, and just like the synth, just in general. When you look at the genre spread of, say, 2 decades ago, compared to that of a decade ago, I think it's pretty fair to say that the diversity was a bit smaller than before. The booty lost a little width, you know what I'm saying? But the difference between a nigga like me and niggas that hate this is that I don't need a booty to be big as hell to enjoy it. If that thing looks nice, then it looks nice. Period, my nigga. Is EDM my genre of choice when listening to music in my free time? Not really. Not counting Sonic songs, of course, because I mean, have y'all heard Fading World, dog? That had me flabbergasted when I first heard it. And I'd be lying if I said I don't yearn for the return to form in terms of genre diversity that we had in the days of ye old. Don't worry, I know there's a big racing game shaped elephant in the room right now regarding that. We'll get to that. But I'd also be lying if I said that we haven't still been getting some flames since then regardless of that. The Frontiers OST is rather exemplary of a lot of things I want to talk about here regarding this. I missed a lot of the island's music when I first played the game because I got the game both not too long after they dropped the jukebox update and not too long before Sonic's birthday, which added a long ass mix of different Sonic songs to the list of songs you could play. So I was abusing the hell out of that thing and kinda ignoring the in-game music as a result. But most of the overworld music is rather calm, relaxing, chill, beats to study and sleep to.
Oh brother, this guy stinks!
Like, this shit is actually beautiful. Kronos Island's music making a comeback in Crossworld's OST put a smile on my face. In fact, give me a second here because I'm gonna get real loud in a minute. There's a reason that I opted to specify earlier that the series' music from around a decade ago specifically was what was suffering more so from the supposed EDM homogenization. Cause re-listening to the Frontiers OST for this video made me realize that niggas was bullshitting talking about it being the same way to this day. By the power provided in me by my ancestors' increased spiritual presence in this lovely month of Black History February, I will smite you lying assholes. Y'all let the post-forces hatred blind you to what was actually being put out there, cause this was already a false statement by the time Frontiers released. You know, the very next mainline game? The Titan themes alone would have already quieted the people who wanted more butt rock in the series again, and the island's beautiful, almost angelic at times score would have satisfied the people who wanted more natural and orchestrated music again, over the abundance of electronic music used in the game prior. Yes, cyberspace has electronic music again in spades, but I want you to look me in the eyes, look around you, cause I'm there, and tell me there isn't a more fitting genre for a place called cyberspace. However, where I can give these peeps an inch and come to an understanding is in the Final Horizon OST. For the first time in what feels like forever in a mainline 3D game, we could finally play as someone other than Sonic, and occasionally Shadow, and I was geeked. But of course, it's the character themes that I want to talk about here, cause this really does spin into this whole genre diversity thing. Now, I actually quite like the themes for each character here. Bloodflow and Second Wind especially get a lot of plays from me. But the slight issue I have here is the loss of identity regarding each character's typical genre here. They all end up kind of falling under the same lo-fi cloth in my eyes. Or ears, I guess. Good lo-fi, but lo-fi nonetheless. And the reason I find issue with this is because I feel like the series had the most genre diversity it ever had in conjunction with the different playable characters back in the day. Like, Sonic was typically associated with high energy rock, which, like, of course, that fits his wildly free nature. We love that for our homeboy. Tails was typically a blend of more upbeat, playful pop rock and electronic music, and I think that matches his mix of wide-eyed childish wonder and mechanical genius natures very well. Knuckles? My boy K Nux, you already know he's got all that hip-hop and R&B. Everyone knows Unknown from Me, Pumpkin Hill, and Aquatic Mine especially, dog. Don't play with me. Amy was very much associated with what I'd call teen girl pop, which, just off the name alone, makes a lot of sense, I'd say, which matched her bubbly romantic nature to a T. And Rouge would provide us with a lot of very much appreciated smooth jazz, perfect for a femme fatale type like her. There could really be something for everyone, while also telling a lot about their characters just off their genres alone. And that was kinda lost when we stopped having multiple playable characters again. Not to say we didn't get different genres anymore, but we definitely lost a bit of that diversity when they disappeared. So when Final Horizon finally lets Amy, Tails, and Knuckles be playable again, and everyone ends up being cut from the same lo-fi cloth like they ended up being, it loses that little bit of sauce. The songs still slap, but it does make me yearn. And this is why the Crossworlds OST makes me so happy, cause on top of us getting to hear short snippets of that music again through everyone's victory themes, the tracks themselves are filled with that big genre spread again. Like if we got Adventure 2 style playable characters again and Amy was a playable character, I could 1000% see something like Rainbow Garden matching her perfectly. Or something akin to Colorful Mall with Tails with all those joy and whimsy ass vibes it gives off. I really do love this stuff, man. And I feel like they've been doing a damn fine job with the music, even more so as of late. All we're missing now is a new Baller Knuckles theme. I'll be waiting, Sega. So sauce-wise, Sonic music gets a pass from me. Just don't make any lyrics like the Crossworlds intros again. A catchy tune can only get you so far, my nigga. You're on thin ice. Now this is a topic I've gone quite a bit more in depth on in this video, but allow me to summarize since I mean hey, we haven't gotten a new mainline game since then, so my stance hasn't really changed. But also damn, I really am a repeating ass nigga. I swear, I've rehashed at least one thing I've said before in every video. Like the word the. Like shut up nigga, get some new material. Essentially, if there is anything that I felt the Sonic games lost the recipes with for a good while on, it was the stories. From the stories themselves to the characterization, hell even the voice direction.
Wait, we're going up against them? Seriously? Hey Tails, Knuckles, back me up on this, would ya?
We're one step away from the next tower and the next emerald. You got this, buddy. I have your back.
So many different facets that they were just not cooking with. Which is a real shame because the stories of the games mean just as much to me as the music and the gameplay. A trifecta that honestly didn't need all three firing on all cylinders for me to enjoy the game. Because if it was lacking in one aspect, I could still find joy in the other two. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't still mourn the loss of a perfect trinity. And you can feel the sudden shift in story quality, cause that shit just T-boned us out of nowhere. Like imagine the whiplash of going from back-to-back bangers of Secret Rings into Unleashed into Black Knight and then into Colors. Makes you want to just punch a child, bro, damn! Colors and Generation stories may be rather inoffensive, but that just makes them all the more dull. Nothing to sink my teeth into, really. Colors was definitely above Generations in that regard, but that's just because Generations didn't have much to it in the first place. Call that shit white space. And along with a shift in story direction came a shift in characterization too. You could argue that Tails' characterization already started to shift from Unleashed, and you'd be right. But Colors is where that stanky-ass seed really started to bear its stanky-ass fruit. Sonic? A little too jokey and quippy. The real him is still in there somewhere, but the stories don't really provide many situations for us to see it anymore. Voice-wise, I like him actually. Just don't do that deep-ass voice he had in Frontiers ever again, por favor. Tails, just the mechanical super genius sidekick now. He doesn't have all that much of an active role anymore, and that child aspect of this child is mostly gone outside of his fear in Sonic's absence. Voice-wise, still masterful though, we ball there. Knuckles though, yeah, just throw the whole thing out. Except the VA. Cause I heard this nigga in the recent Chaotix files, I know you have it in you, Dave, lock in. Amy, yeah, we ain't talking about Amy. Just know that changes must be made. And I can barely even mention the rest of the cast, to be honest. They had even less of a presence than Knuckles and Amy did. And those niggas were in like 2 games. And they were barely even in those. But I want to specify that I generally don't think the voice actors here are poor at their job. Rather that the direction they're given stinks. And I genuinely believe the cast we have now could immediately be more beloved with some better direction work at the helm. Then we look at Prime. And let me preface this by saying that I haven't actually watched the show, so I can't speak with 100% certainty on this. But from the little that I have seen, I quite like Devin's voice for Sonic. Good shit, Devin. And Ian's Shadow? Hikey kind of fire too. I just want to talk to the minds behind Sonic's character specifically. I just want to talk. As for the movies, I honestly don't really mind the characterization here personally. Sonic was nowhere near as much of a Gen Alpha brain-rotted quip machine as I thought he'd be from how people spoke about him. I actually quite liked his depiction. And I especially feel like they get the emotional beats down very well. I'd say that's when he feels the most like his game counterpart. And they got Shadow, Tails, and Knuckles down pretty damn well too, in my opinion. I'd actually say I like Knuckles' characterization the most, then Tails, then Shadow, and then Sonic the least. But none of them are bad. And I actually quite love their group dynamics, so props to them in that regard. They were honestly kinda cooking. Now we just gotta see how they handle Amy. Frontiers was a big shift on the game side of things though. Sonic's voice was stinky in that game specifically, but character-wise, baller. I can't wait to see him in the sequel. Tails might finally start locking in beyond being a geek again. Knuckles wasn't just a simple bumbling buffoon anymore, and Amy, I said we ain't talking about her. I think we all know. And Crossworlds provided us with a ton of greatly appreciated interactions between a bunch of characters that desperately needed some shine. They were left in the dusty toy box for way too long. Like this game single-handedly shot Jet the Cockstocks way up after a century of nothing. Believe in your character, Sega. I know something magical can be cooked up once again. Frontiers' story was admittedly a little undercooked in my opinion, but it was a huge step up from what we were getting. Then Shadow Gens drops and almost fully restores my faith in these niggas. Now we just need that kind of love that Shadow was shown and further spread it to the rest of the cast in the sequel. Keep it up, bro chachos! So sauce-wise, Sonic's stories and characterization gets another very recent pass. Just address the rose-colored elephant in the room, s'il vous plaît. Now this is where we start getting into some truly inexplicable rigmarole, cause I don't know how we've managed to not only have barely moved since the year 2008, but also still somehow gotten worse, my nigga. I'm no stranger to talking about the models on here, but this isn't just about that. Like this is a generational downgrade of visual sauce multimedially. Models, buns for far too many of them. Official artwork, still goated pretty often, but mainly when the proportions aren't based on that chunky quilled model. And the stages, the locales, homie, if they don't start shaking things up for this next mainline game that I imagine would be announced for the man's 35th birthday, they're gonna be still digging up Green Hill and Chemical Plant when the contents of my ballsack are nothing but dust. It's really bizarre because I don't think all these aspects I've been mentioning started going downhill at the exact same time, but it was in rather rapid succession. And while I personally don't have all that much of an issue with the movies and how they depict Sonic, I would 1000% be lying if I said I wouldn't have preferred animated movies with Sonic's regular characterization. Prime also looked rather nice, and the animation for some of those fight scenes, baller, legitimately, like good shit there. So at least on the shows and movie side of things, we're doing pretty well for ourselves. Could definitely still be better, but I'm sufficiently quenched. For now. It was once again only very recently where we started seeing some bump on the game side of things. And this time I don't just mean Frontiers like I almost always say. Nah, I'm giving these flowers to Crossworlds and the showing surrounding its run actually. They finally showed off again that they are, in fact, more than capable of creating new, bright, and interesting locales for the games. We've just been getting skimped. The 35th anniversary render that we got honestly looked pretty sweet. Much better than what we've been getting with that office worker ass energy to it. The animation we got promoting the game was genuinely just stellar. Like, I've got basically no notes for that. I just love that off. And on a smaller note, I absolutely adored the thick graffiti-esque art style they used for the characters in the crosstalks. It feels like a modern rendition of the Sonic Battle art style, which was already an art style that I rocked with heavy. A different style of rebellious edge purely in energy. If you combine this style with Uekawa's posing, I think I'd actually lose my mind, bro. That art style mixed with the style of how they conversed reminded me very much of the World Ends With You games and how they handled non-animated cutscenes. And honestly, I wouldn't mind if the games had something similar to that in the future if they're planning to have tons of cutscenes like Frontiers did. Save the budget and time for making the actual cutscenes pop the hell off. I wouldn't be upset in the slightest. Remember kids, work smarter, not farther. So I feel like they're stepping up their game in visuals as well. They're dropping some nice new locales again, the renders have improved at least in terms of the posing and color, and the out of game animations, like just entirely, those are gas. It's just those crusty ass models that are holding us back now. Going back to Crossworlds for a sec, can you imagine if we just had some of that crosstalk artwork go into the character select menu? Cause I'm not gonna lie to you, the renders they used are lame as hell, bruv. They most definitely could have done better than that. And if they don't want to do that, update the sanitized ass models, dog. Bust out some new ones to usher in a true new age. If there were ever a good time to do so, it'd be now on Sonic's 35th year of living. Legitimately, so many things could be made better by extension of creating new and improved models, man. The renders could get more striking pose work and expressions. The cutscenes could be made more impactful with some better rigging and just, better looks. And maybe, just maybe, they could finally get Sonic to cross his arms without looking like a goof. Sonic, and by extension the franchise itself, could benefit greatly from a bit of that old visual edge it used to have. Not necessarily saying I want it back in the same way, as much as I do love it, but I just want the visuals to finally grow out of this more sanitized energy, for lack of a better term, that it feels like it's had for a good while now. I want to see some proper visual experimentation again, to feel some of that good old radical energy brought into the modern age and reforged to see what they can cook up. I'm putting a good chunk of my faith in you all for that next mainline game, Sega and Sonic team. Give me something that'll blow my nuts off. So current visuals don't get a passing grade, but I can see they're trying to improve, and I'll take that over nothing at all, or even worse, more degradation. So let's look at our little checklist here. Music, big check. That never fell off in my humble opinion. While I miss the old genre spread, I can also see that they're expanding in that regard again, so I'm looking forward to see what they cook up next. Stories, characterization, and voice direction, another check, but a very recent check. And also a check that's teetering on the edge of being fired. I've got my eye on them on this aspect. And speaking of eyes, for visuals, a failing grade, I'm afraid. They're stepping it up in this regard again as of late, but just not enough for me to feel that heat again. I'm gonna need a more drastic change to really be in on this aspect enough for a passing grade. I would have added a gameplay section as well, but I basically already have an entire video talking about that, so check that out if you want to hear more on that. To some, this might seem too generous, and to them I say, I don't know, maybe. I don't typically like to be a dickhead, and doom posting just doesn't come all that naturally to me. I'm simply too hope-pilled and partake in too much optimaxing to be held down by such things for either too long or too often. I'd much rather be hyped and let down than to never feel the hype at all out of fear of disappointment. I love the Sonic franchise, I really do, and I want to see it be a better version of itself than it's ever been. Funnily enough, I feel like its reputation and popularity right now could very well be amongst the strongest it's ever been, but I want more. I'm a greedy ass nigga who wants far better for a series I love so very much. The shift to greater heights has already begun. So let's just see if Sega and Sonic Team can keep themselves in high gear. So basically, bro Mandalos, what I'm trying to say here is, save Amy from that mom-ass characterization, bro. Share my love with the world, head ass. How about sharing some actually fun energy with the rest of the cast again, stupid?